You know, hero mastery is nice and all, and it's not like being really good with your main heroes isn't gonna help you, but it is a very me-specific thing in a game that is, as I said probably 1,000,002 times by now, heavily team-reliant. Decision making is a big thing in Overwatch, and something that can help you always, but particularly in lower ranks, is knowing when and how to take advantage of enemy misplays. Players make misplays all the time, whether being gold ranks, masters, or even pro players. A misplay on your part would be to not take advantage of an enemy misplay. Confused yet? At any rate, today we will be discussing misplays in Overwatch, how to detect and take advantage of them. But before we do that, a little disclaimer. I know that a video like this would benefit greatly from me being able to show you examples of misplays and talk about them, but if I'm all honest, I'm too lazy to go through the 18 hours of back-recorded gameplay I have on my drive to find niche situations to talk about, and it's not like I can just play a couple of matches and convince my enemies to make those specific misplays for me. All I'm saying is that your imagination is gonna have to make up for my laziness here. Sorry for that, but I hope that this video can still help you out a bit. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I would like to kick things off with something that is rather obvious and easy, which is overextending. Overextending enemies can easily be detected by the fact that they are nowhere near their team. Heroes that are particularly good at punishing a misplay like that are McCree and Roadhog, since they can stunlock the enemy and take them out quickly. But also Mei, who can wall the player off and by that make them an easy kill for your team. Sometimes an enemy just gets a little too greedy and tries to get a pick on a low health teammate, or sometimes the enemies just get a little too confident and walk too close to your spawn. Whatever the case, overextending enemies need to be punished with a quick pick, but this pick doesn't do anything for you if your entire team doesn't follow up on it. So the best thing you can do is call out, "We got a pick, let's push," and have the entire team walk towards the objective, ideally taking out more enemies who may be attempted to help their overextending teammate. A team that is indecisive and doesn't push with full force onto the objective in situations like this misses a big opportunity that could give them the upper hand. Another misplay that is pretty similar to overextending relates to poor positioning. The biggest difference is that poor positioning, while related to overextending in certain scenarios, isn't always as blatantly obvious, and by that also not always as easy to take advantage of. Poor positioning can again be punished by a Roadhog, McCree, and Mei, but heroes that punish poor positioning to its maximum capacity are Ana, Widowmaker, and Hanzo. Because those snipers don't only have the ability to take enemies out quickly, but also put an enemy into a position that they didn't even realize was suboptimal, since if you were not running a sniper, them being wherever they were wouldn't have been a big deal. As Hanzo and Widowmaker, you want to be looking to get a different angle on the battlefield and catch players off guard who stepped just a foot too far from their Reinhardt shield or felt safe being further in the back. A pick by a sniper needs to be followed up by a strong push as well, since in cases of evenly skilled teams, the enemies would likely be way more cautious after the first pick from a Widowmaker or Hanzo, meaning that they likely won't have such an easy time anymore catching people off guard. Heroes that are very up in your facey, like a Reinhardt Zarya combo, but also a harassing Tracer or Genji, can be of great help for your sniper by making the enemies unable to focus on your sharpshooter's position. Meaning a great way of initiating a push is by going in after your sniper got a pick, then pressure the enemies as much as possible to allow your teammate to get subsequent picks based on that. A misplay you can take advantage of as a support tank duo is baiting enemies into shooting your tank before you engage to charge your support's ultimate. Obviously what's important is to not give the enemies too much room to actually confirm a kill and not to make it look too obvious. You want to either fake an engagement or make it look like your team is being indecisive. While a very effective tool in charging support ultimates to engage quickly, do keep in mind that if you take too much damage from the same hero, they will also likely have the ultimate quickly to combat that, so you want to focus heroes in particular that gave you that support ultimate to begin with. On the note of ultimates, something that you definitely have to take advantage of is your enemies overkilling their ult economy. If the enemy Lucio already dropped their beat to keep their team alive, their Zarya dropped a graph and both Genji and Pharah ulted into it, you want to make sure you don't use reses or transcendence and instead just let the entire team drop. The reason I'm telling you to avoid reses is because it requires a bit of coordination for a team to not only hold onto their ultimates in a situation like that, but also to successfully push the enemies back when they're all revived on the exact same spot, which makes you particularly vulnerable for a Reinhardt ult. To put it simply, if your team does have the brains to come out of that res and win with only a minimal amount of ultimates invested, go for it. Otherwise, you should probably not play Mercy for a team that doesn't have the smarts to do that, because I guarantee they will yell at you. Assuming you are not running a Mercy, but instead a Ana Zenyatta combo, do not use your Transcendence in that graph. With so many ultimates invested and the risk of a biotic grenade countering your ulti, you're better off keeping it for the next engagement. And it isn't until then that you can punish the enemies for this misplay. If they just dumped all the ultis on you guys, you can't afford to play the poke war in the choke. You need to fall, regroup, and push quickly while not making the same mistake as them. You want to make sure that from there on out you have the upper hand in terms of ult economy and only invest as many ultis as necessary to win the engagement. I feel like those three are the most obvious and easy to take advantage kinds of misplays misplays that I can think of, but there are also alterations of that in which you can try to bait or force the enemies to do misplays. Make it look like you are out of position to bait an enemy to you, pressure someone who is out of position when you're playing a flanker and attempt to force them to use the ultimate. Even if the enemies did not dump all but only wasted a single ulti, push in and try to squeeze more out of it and don't use your own ultimates yourself until you're certain you can win the engagement. Make it look like your ultimate is NAS fuck to force the enemies into a certain location and then dump a graph or earth shredder on them. There is a lot of strategy that you can adapt once you grasp onto the concept of misplays and how to take advantage of them. In fact, in higher levels, taking advantage of misplays is very much a core focus of the match. Obviously, everyone tries to avoid mistakes whenever possible, but the art is to make the best out of it in an attempt to turn the situation around. So from now on, when you go into your matches, try not to only focus on your own gameplay and calling out what your teammates are doing wrong, try to look at what the enemies are doing wrong, whether that be in regards to overextending, positioning in general, or ultimate usage. Making someone regret their mistakes can be a very powerful tool. But this is me done for the day, so thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope that this little introduction into misplays and how to take advantage of them helps you guys figuring out how to find more of them on your own. If you enjoyed the video, do let me know by dropping me a like on your way out, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you all next time.
Can you kill a fucking tree? Oh my god, Senyatta, you're so bad. Oh my fucking jeez, dude.